So Manu, I'm just having these one-on-one talanoa with our people today because we're here at this like hackathon with these topics around inclusion and diversity, and I wonder if you might talk what that means to you today after kind of being present for our sessions throughout the day.
Well, it's a pretty broad answer there, because the reality around our everyday lives mean that we're in situations where our culture, our birthplace, our whakapapa, our pepeha, our own existence is always questioned. And so the opportunity of being here is about putting that down on paper and recording some of this stuff in a way that people who might come into New Zealand or people who might want to find themselves actually have some resources, some tools to be able to do that. So we know that we're not a homogenous community. So if we think about our Māori, even Māori wouldn't see themselves as one Māori group. The term Māori is a Western construct as well. So every brown-faced person in New Zealand was Māori, when in actual fact you have your hapu, you have your iwi, you have your marae, you have your whānau, and they could be all different, even in a place like Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. So the reality for us is that we've got to understand the cultural aspects to who we are, where we're from, understand how that feeds into our past and what our tupuna, what our grandparents wanted for us in that setting way back then. A lot of the immigrants or migrants that come to New Zealand to live, they bring a culture as well. Doesn't matter where they come from. They bring their own culture. And we want to, as a mana whenua, as a tangata whenua, as a iwi, as a hapu, we want to encourage them to keep their culture. It's not about trying to come to New Zealand and change your culture to Māori or to a New Zealand born, but to be proud of who you are and where you've come from, but also understand that you're living in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And there are certain tikanga, kawa, that we follow as part of our upbringing in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So as the mana whenua, we want to make sure that people understand that, practice it, be encouraged to learn it, but also keep their own culture. So very important for people to be able to know who they are. So Manu Sione is Māori, so from Ngāti Whātua, Samoan, from the villages of Whangamalo and Luatunuu, and from Cook Islands, from the island of Puka Puka. So, I've got a history from my grandfather coming here in 1916 from Puka Puka via Rarotonga to New Zealand to fight in the First World War. And then stayed in New Zealand because he was only a young man, continued to serve with the New Zealand Armed Services and go overseas to North Africa. Stayed alive during that time, thankfully, and came back to New Zealand, married my grandmother, who's Ngāti Whātua, Te Uri o Hau, me Te Tāu Oku Hapu, and Rewati Rawa ko Waikaritu Marae. And so I connect with the Māori side, but I also strongly connect with the Samoan and the Cook Island side. So people get a bit afraid about Māori wanting to dominate them and, you only learn Māori while you're here in New Zealand. That's not the case. I hope that the tools and the resources and the kōrero that we're having is about diversity, is about equity, is about inclusion and acceptance. So the reality for us is that we're all one people in a world that is finite. And if we don't look after our world, the world's going to chuck us out.
Mm.
So, we're seeing climate change and things like that. And I'm getting into philosophical corridor now.
Perfect.
The reality is that we aren't looking after the one place that we are living in, and we are only caretakers of this whenua, of our moana, of our seafood, of our skies. And if we continue to pollute the skies as we do, pollute the rivers, the lakes, the seas as we do, nobody's going to be here. So, this is important.
And I get the sense, as someone on a journey trying to understand where they fit in the world, that if you don't really understand where you fit, then that clouds your vision of things like climate change. Why should I care about the climate if I don't even know where I come from? And I guess one of the feelings I've had this morning is that I don't just have to go back to the Cook Islands to retrace my past, that I might be able to initiate that through Māoridom, through understanding that when I listen to people acknowledge their ancestors, that helps them be in that moment, as opposed where me or others in that room today are kind of on this wild mission of where do I fit today? What hat should I put on?
Yeah. There's a couple of points to that kōrero, Will. I would encourage people who have come here, who have got whakapapa in other countries, to go back and visit their country, wherever it is. The reason I say that is that New Zealand is an adopted home for those that have come here. And it might be that their grandparents or their parents had brought them here. Or it might be that you were born here, and so this is the only country you've seen. But if you go back to your motherland, and I say motherland because actually that's how you connect to the whakapapa, is through your mother. If you go back to the motherland,